Hey, my name is Mohan, I'm the CMO of Nairon.
My name is Luca, and I'm the CEO of Nairon.
Luca, in the last episode, we spoke about multimodal AI. And a big part of that is obviously reasoning. So in this video, let's break down what reasoning is, how it works, so the audience has a better understanding of what happens in the back rooms when it comes to an AI's output.
For sure. So think about it this way. If I ask you a very quick question and you don't do any thinking or any reasoning, you'd essentially give me an answer right away. You would give me a pretty poor answer if it was a complicated question. Now, if it was a simple question, like what's your name? Tell me Mahan, real quickly, you don't really need to think about it. And so when you think about reasoning, down to its fundamental first principles, it's just a conversation with yourself on the task at hand. And the LLMs, they do the same thing. They just have an internal dialogue about the task at hand and how to approach it, what the user is actually asking me for, and perhaps even like planning out kind of how to answer the question. And so I have a diagram over here that basically just shows that internal dialogue. If it's a standard model that's not using any reasoning, and by the way, the best models, they have reasoning built in and they kind of know when should I reason and when I don't need to reason, which is really cool. The earlier models were just reasoning every single time you ask them. The important thing to note is that the standard models that don't do any reasoning typically get an instant answer without any reasoning. The quality is lower. We'll get into sort of the trade-offs between in a little bit. But the reasoning model is actually thinking it over and it's kind of like taking its time approaching the situation. And so if we think about a very simple question like, what is 23 times 47? The model hasn't memorized that, for example. And so what it's doing is it's first sort of like breaking down the equation, right? So 23 times 47 is the same thing like 23 times 50 minus, etc., right? And it's kind of like breaking it down perhaps in steps and reasoning. And a lot of the reasoning is also verification. So it might have come to an answer, but if it's a complicated question, it'll kind of like go backwards and think about like, how can I actually verify that this is the right way of doing this? And then you'll get to the final answer, which is, the answer is 1081.
And so as the reasoning has improved in the AI models, the token costs have also increased.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a trade-off, right? So if we look here, the standard model might be able to answer a very simple question with only 200 tokens. But the same question proposed to a reasoning model might spend 3,000 tokens on just the reasoning, because it's doing multiple loops and multiple iterations of testing itself across whatever the question is. Of course, depending on how difficult it is. That's why sometimes when you use Claude or use ChatGPT, sometimes it reasons for 2 seconds. Sometimes it reasons for like 30, 40 seconds. And so what you can see is that the same architecture, same inputs, obviously maybe a little bit better outputs, they cost like 15 times more in tokens. And so what we've done is we advise to kind of think about, and you don't really need to do this as much. This used to be the case like 6 months ago, where you would kind of have to like think about what you give to a reasoning model, what you give to a standard model, because what you want the reasoning to be about is very hard mathematical questions, anything that has any complex code, multi-step planning, anything like that that is very sort of dynamic and that you want the LLM to be careful with, you want it to reason first. However, the standard models without reasoning tend to do quite well with anything like drafting up emails or summarizing notes. Anything like that can be answered quite quickly by the LLMs.
So let's dive deeper into the trade-offs so we can visually break that down as well.
Yeah, so I have a chart over here. We'll just go row by row. So when we think about the two models, if time is important, you definitely want the standard models. They typically answer within a few seconds. The reasoning models can go up to a couple of minutes. If we look at the second row over here, if cost is an issue, we definitely, again, want to go with the standard models because they can cost, as we mentioned, 15 times more. Now, if the quality is important on an easy task, you definitely want to go with the standard model because the reasoning models would be overkill. Now, the only reason why you would use a reasoning model would be when you have a high quality task that you need done carefully and where you don't have the other constraints. And so that is a very good use case of when you would use the reasoning model. A lot of the orchestration that is done on AI agents, orchestration is essentially the distribution of tasks on multiple AI agents, is done by a very strong reasoning model because it's able to kind of take a query, it's able to take a task, distill it down into fragments, pass it over to other AI agents, other LLMs, to end up doing those tasks.
Two big things we just touched on there, AI agents and orchestration. Those are going to be some things that we're going to dive deeper into in future videos.
Yep.
Until then, guys, if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe. You can also subscribe to our newsletter, links down in the description below. You can also find us on LinkedIn, where we're very active on a day-to-day basis. And until next time, we'll see you in the next video.